So much is new for this series, and Wednesday showed how easily it can trip up the drivers. With how punishing Watkins Glen can be, we saw many left to lick their wounds. Will the club and pro drivers take heed and be wary of the new pitfalls? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch the PCA Sim Racing Series 8 live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is DJ Clark and Rachel Whiteford. Cameron Abernon is on social media along with Ryan Bauer producing, who is using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. The Glen is among the most famous and popular road courses in North America. To understand why, let's head to our track guide. Welcome to Watkins Glen International. Situated in upstate New York, just south of the Finger Lakes, this track has seen it all. Few road circuits can boast hosting Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, and IMSA during its history. Though it did have a brief fallow period in the early 80s, thanks to the investment of local companies, it's grown into one of the premier road tracks in the U.S. With 4 layouts to choose from that range between 2.5 and 3.5 miles in length, lap times can vary greatly. But it also means it's suitable for lots of different levels of racing, from amateur to pro. The one thing that stays consistent no matter which car and which layout you're using is that Watkins Glen means speed. Many of the straights are very long, and the majority of the corners are fast sweepers. Some of them include a surprising amount of banking as well. Combine that with the proximity of the barriers, and this historic circuit retains a very old-school feel. Drivers in lesser-powered cars can expect drafting battles, while higher-powered machinery will test the skill and bravery of their pilots. Some of the turns are visually iconic, such as the carousel and the S's. Others, like the inner loop, the chute, and turn 9, greatly challenge even the expertly skilled. And of course, we haven't even mentioned the drastic amount of elevation change drivers experience. Between its rich history and popularity among drivers, this track stays busy and seems likely to be that way for a long, long time. Well, DJ, it seems like the 992 Cup car fits in pretty well here, but it is not without its perils.
No, it is not. There are plenty of opportunities to get onto the power a little bit early, and with the no traction control in these machines, specifically coming down through the boot, the chute, the toe, the heel, those corners in particular, as well as turn 9, it's very easy to spin those rear tires. It looks like your best overtaking opportunity is going to be going down into the outer loop, out of turn 1, getting in the draft and going up through into that big braking zone. But the truth is that you really don't have to brake nearly as heavily, and we tend to see a little bit more passing going on into the chute and into the toe. Also, with the expanded track limits around here, the heel has become a little bit more of an open overtaking area. So look for those as well, but really and truly look for drivers just to keep their hands on the wheel here. This is going to be very, very tricky for these cars, and we've seen more than a few of them in the previous series have their fair share of troubles.
A big part of that seemed to be the standing start, Rachel, which we knew would be new for some drivers. Once we get to these higher levels, the club and pro, though, I expect probably a good number of them are used to standing starts here on iRacing, as there's a number of official series that have it. But what are your thoughts after what we witnessed?
Well, it's obviously a lack of familiarity, and Watkins Glen is also one of those tracks that really doesn't help it. Because you have a huge turn, a 90-degree slow corner, right almost at the end of the grid, because the front guys are not far away from that start, and you have a big field, you have no runoff to either side, and you have an immediate turn. It's going to end up being a cluster there. It's hard to avoid that, and because everyone has to slow up so much after just accelerating to get in there, you'll tend to get a bit of packing up, especially as the fields get larger in size. This is a huge field we have tonight, so it's going to be another exciting one to see. And it's also, I think, that lack of familiarity. Wheel spin. We said this car already has no traction control. It has no ABS, things like that. So you can spin wheels. You can spin a wheel on the start and you can get the car sideways. We saw that happen in the sport class. We're going to have to see what happens tonight, of course, because it could go any which way. It might be perfect, but the standing starts are a different part of racing, a different talent to master. And these guys are going to have to do that.
Indeed. One part drag racing, one part road racing, as Terrence Tong puts one on the board, a 44.6. We'll get them on the second row, at least for now. We're waiting on a number of them to cycle through. Looks like he gets shuffled down to third as Stephen Kemp now goes into second place. 40-plus drivers that we're expecting to take part here in the club class before we head off to pro later this evening. So it is going to be an absolutely full field as we watch now with the 06 of Ken Eskridge. Good up for 22nd there, it looks like, DJ, on that first time around.
Yeah, and if you watched his line there coming through the 90, that's a little bit wider than you really want to take it. The reprofiling of the curbs in the latest iRacing scan, it used to be that you could really go out wide there, carry some good speed, and let that go around. Now you've got to be a little bit more careful coming out of that first corner, as those curbs can really upset the car. They're a little bit higher. You actually bottom out a little bit over it, and so that's not the preferred line anymore.
We head over to Road Heaver, currently sitting in 17th in that 9.82, and his first lap 45.1. That's just about a second off of the pole time, with Garrett Taylor currently holding that one. Let's see what he can do in this last little bit. And he was looking very good up until that moment, and unfortunately, little bobble has cost him, Rachel. But they get 3 laps, so he can come back around for one more go.
Yeah, he can. He's got another chance to do it. The tyres might be a little bit warmer here for him, so that could be an opportunity on board there with Waldron as he comes through the final corner. You'll see what I mean by this start-finish line. That little strip of grass is it. That's barely a lawnmower's width. There's no runoff here. And look how much he has to whoa up here to get to this corner. And this is from full speed, which arguably you can corner a lot faster at full speed. When they're only just getting up to speed, it makes it much, much tighter, much, much slower to get through there. And it's important to really get that great launch here, because this S's section is so vital to a lap, because it puts you onto probably the longest straight on the entire track, and with no bus stop in this layout, a huge, huge braking zone to the carousel, where the car's weight shift is a really important thing to manage.
Heading over to Blanco, who still hasn't set a time. It looks like that first one is not going to count because that was an out lap before, and well, this one's probably not going to count either, as I think he went over the edge of the track limits there wide at turn 1. We go down to car number 30 instead. Neil Urbesh, the driver out of New York, is going to try and see if he can finally put one down, as his first lap also got deleted. And down into the toe of the boot, just a couple more corners to go. And we haven't been watching, so we don't know if he's had an off from here, DJ, but he's certainly driving like he thinks this is a good one.
Yeah, he certainly does. Let's take a look here how he does coming into the heel right here. Good line. As we've talked about a couple of times, it's a deceptive corner. You think you've got to really slow down for it, but you can honestly take it in about second or third gear in these cars. Same with this turn 9. Got to be very, very careful on the throttle, though, as that track flattens back out. Very easy to spin the tires there. Looks like Urbish doing a great job to be able to keep everything underneath him.
Patterson just jumped up into 4th with his last lap of the qualifying session. So let's see if anybody can go higher than him. But the number 30 crosses the line and puts down a 46.353. That's going to put him into 39th place and last of the drivers who have set times. In fact, he's less than a tenth off of Sarumi in 38. So definitely still room to try and get ahead, but only one more lap available. They are not allowed to complete a hot lap if time runs out. We come back to Terrence Tong, and he is finished with his 3. So this 5th place is the highest we're going to see out of him. About the best chance, Rachel, it looks like, to snatch the pole away from Taylor is El Baga in the 043, who is less than a tenth behind Garrett.
Yeah, the Racing Region Ride driver has been always a quick one to watch, so we'll have to see what the 043 can do with this. Is he going to super wide, but that could be intentional. I'm not sure. He looked like he might have dropped a little bit of time there, but he looked quick. That was carrying so much speed. Look how much track he's using. I don't think there's a millimeter left.
Just about out into the grass there. And I think that is allowed, the part that he went off on. If he would have gone earlier on, I think they would have counted it as a slowdown penalty, but he did not receive it. But it's also not fast. It's a 44.854. He will not be our pole sitter. Blanco with his last chance at trying to finally set one in that 911 machine. comes around the toe of the boots. He and Thomas Doherty are the only two that haven't set a time, but Thomas is not on the track, so he will start from the back.
Yeah, he will indeed, Joe. And for Albie Blanco, he knows that the time is ticking against him here. Even if he's able to just start a couple of positions up from the back of the grid, that is going to be a massive boon to him. They're more of a traditional line there, as you said, going through the heel of the boot. You can take that corner a little bit wider, as we saw Ibarra do a little bit ago. Good line coming out of 9. This looks like it's going to be a good lap for Blanco.
Out of the penultimate corner, Carolina driver now takes it into the final turn. This one can be tricky with how the wall is right there at the exit, but he gives it a bit of a wide berth. Does this count? 45.8. That will indeed put him on the timing sheets, and that is 38th position. Time to go through our starting grid for the evening, and as we mentioned, Garrett Taylor is going to be on the pole. Tamer Elbaga will be in second, followed by Stephen Kemp in third. After that, Michael Patterson will be in fourth with Terrence Tong in the 5th position, Aaron Nations in P6. You've got Nick Facciolo in 7th, followed by Will Waldron in 8th. Row 10 has Sean Murphy and Gary Reese.
Starting off in 11th, it's going to be Jay Dennis, followed by Volko Krebs with Ben Leong and Kevin Douglas behind them. Marco Harris will be in 15th, followed by David Glen with Logan Grotto and Donald Binkley behind them. James Hayash will be 19th, and Chip Witt will round out your top 20.
21st is Jochen Baker, with 22nd being Jared Rodeheaver, Keith Morgan 23rd, Aaron Ambrosino 24th, George Makadakis in 25th, 26th is Fabio Andrade, with Dean Chapman in 27th, Peter Roth in 28th, Richard Franco in 29th, and Jake Steinbrink in 30th. Rest of those results coming up on your screen.
Indeed, they've all lined up. So the engines now begin to rev for our first race of Series 8. And the green flag is out. It looks like a couple puffs of smoke as drivers do spin the wheels up. I'm not seeing any major incidents yet as they plunge down into the 90. Some of them more aggressive than others, a little bit of 3 wide in there. But so far, I think they're going to make it through the first corner clean.
It does indeed look that way. Still jockeying for position, 3 wide coming up through the S's. You've got to be very careful with that. If you try to get offline coming through the corner, it can really throw you off. But it looks like these drivers have everything together. We ride on board with Michael Patterson right now. Directly ahead of him, that's Terrence Tong and Stephen Kemp duking it out for P3.
Kemp in the red and yellow, Tong on the outside in the green and black. Terrence has to give that one up. He could try and fight back once again as they break down into the chute. Let's see who's brave here. No attempt from the 388. Up in front of them, Rachel, Garrett Taylor is already a full second ahead.
Yeah, he really is. He's done a huge job here. Garrett Taylor got that launch he really wanted, and it has put him in a fantastic place. Look at this. Big lead already on lap 1 ahead of Elbaga, Kemp, Tong, and the others there. Really going to set him in a good position for this race. If you can break that draft window before the fast run up the S's on lap 2 and onto the straight, he will be in really great shape.
And poor Jochen Baker, as soon as we left the camera from him, he understeered off of the toe and went into the tire barrier. Jake Steinbrink had similar issues, unfortunately, through there. That's the only trouble that I've seen through this first stage of the lap. Taylor with one more corner to go to lead the first lap here in the club class of the first race in Series 8. Oof, very close to the wall there for Elbaga, DJ, as we watched him come off the corner. I'm not sure if he actually touched it.
I don't think he did, but that shows you just how hard the 043 is pushing right now. He is trying to gain that gap back on Garrett Taylor, not lose the slipstream as we talked about, but he's also trying to keep Stephen Kemp behind him because that 37 is looking very menacing in his rearview mirror.
Yeah, Stephen Kemp had a great run off of the 90. He's going to get the slipstream. But again, remember, they go a little bit farther down, but a little bit less braking coming into that outer loop, and already a defense from Elbaga. He doesn't seem to feel safe, and he is going to take that inside line into that long right-hander. They stay in order a little bit farther back here, Rachel. A little bit of a lockup on the outside there for Chip Witt, who is still battling with Facciolo.
Yeah, it really is. Really pushing for this thing. We can see Witt's on board there. And the mirror really helps to get to see at least part of the screen in the car's mirror. I like that positioning there, of course. But coming now down through the bridge of the foot there, down towards the toe here. And it really shows the line these guys have to take with these cars as they just try to keep this as tight as possible, set up for a big run. And just wrecking ahead.
Ooh, somebody off out of the toe of the boot. Didn't quite make out who that was. I think that's Hayosh. Also, Gary Reese slammed into the outside wall through the chute. So this has been treacherous for a number of decent runners there in the mid-pack in these early stages. Kim Eskridge, as we jump back to P28, currently trying to see if he can go by Dave Stewart.
Yeah, indeed, and you can see that. Oh, you do not really want to be too wide coming up through turn 9. That can be a one-way ticket to disaster, but all drivers making that out. That is some impressive driving from these club class drivers.
I can report that Kemp did manage to get by Elbaga into the chute as this battle carries on farther down. Here we look at the view from Elbaga's cockpit up through the S's. This is a huge climb uphill here, Rachel.
Oh, it's a massive climb for them, and they've got to really put themselves in a good position here because the speed you carry out sets you up for this run. And you'll see here, looking up there, the suck-up coming in gives them that chance for a run, and the outside is a great place to make a pass here. We know that from the last 2 races. You want to be on the outside to carry that momentum around and have the inside for the following corners.
And he's going to get it right back. So Kemp finds himself demoted once again. Amazingly, despite the swapping back and forth, Tong and Patterson aren't really that close. We watched from on board him there for a brief moment. So even though the lead looks like it is not bringing us much action, the rest of the podium. Oh, and the 18 is off and prone across the track. Everybody trying to take avoiding maneuvers. That is Aaron Nations, and he's going to take a tow. Not willing to try and risk the car. Thankfully, that prevents everybody else from hitting him, DJ, but it also means that he is going to be losing a ton of time.
It will indeed, Joe, and I think that's a little bit of what we talked about, just goosing the throttle a little bit too much, coming through some of these long, sweeping corners that make up the boot. Very, very easy to do, but with no traction control in these cars, it has deadly consequences. We now ride on board with Ken Askeridge as he works his way through the field here, trying to see what he can find.
Up onto the main circuit as we come back to our leaders once again, and it looks like Tong is starting to catch up. Let's see if this exit off of the 90 will allow him to now slipstream as we check his onboard cam. Looked decent, but I think because of the tow that Kemp is getting, doesn't look like, Rachel, that we'll see Tong on top of him. I could be wrong, though.
We'll have to see exactly what he can pull from this one. Tong's been pushing hard here. The Upper Canada region driver really looking for an opportunity to get this car further upfield here, take advantage of his positioning. He had a great qualifying here. He's at 1. Can it be more? Not sure yet.
Look to the outside from Kemp. Doesn't manage to overtake Tamer. Behind them, looks like Murphy overtaken by Dennis. And we go back to Aaron Ambrosino in the 15th position, chasing a whole clump of cars in front of someone way out wide. That's Chip Witt, who is taking an extremely alternate line through the outer loop.
Yes, indeed he is, and that really cost Chip some good time there, but there we see the train coming around. Ooh, that's another driver. I think that's Logan Grotto having some problems.
Yeah, he went off at the chute, and Albi Blanco in the meantime, who we saw just get a time in late in that qualifying, 22 positions up. He managed to avoid that incident, thankfully, and that was another one popped into his lap.
Yeah, he really did, and incidents will often be the biggest benefit in a race like this, especially at a track where it's pretty tough and you've got a big field. There'll be some. There's always going to be, no matter what you do and how careful you are. Sean Murphy there in the Palmetto region, coming to the final corner here, looking up towards Will Waldron as they come down to our finish line here. This is another one that's a surprisingly longer straight than you realise, and just look at how big this braking is into this first corner. Cars really have to set up and whoa that car down here and carry that weight through.
And that's a big drop downhill into that first turn as well. It certainly doesn't make it easy with gravity not playing its part for you as they come back up. And Stephen Kemp with a very good run on Tamer Albaga. Tamer's going to once again cover the inside line as they come back and break their way into the outer loop. It doesn't seem like Steven just gets enough of a run like he keeps wanting, getting very close. I don't know, what can he do from here other than just try and get that throttle down as soon as he can, DJ?
Joe, I was honestly listening on board with Stephen Kemp there, and there was a little bit of feathering of the throttle. I think he's relatively happy to be in that third place position, save a little bit of fuel, potentially try to go a little bit longer on the pit stops. I think he is just waiting for a high percentage move to present itself, and he is okay backing off here in the early stages of this race.
We haven't talked about that a whole lot, that fuel strategy may play a part later on. Watching from Kemp again. It's not going to be a huge braking zone into the penultimate turn here, so probably won't hear the lift and coast here. Maybe down in the 90 where they have that heavy braking, we could see him try to give it a little bit early to coast it in. Behind him, Tong is only 0.3 of a second back. He's just been hovering menacingly behind him. You can see him from the onboard here looking beneath that rear wing.
Yeah, it really has, of course, and just keeping that car present, because sometimes being there is enough to get the pass done. As Tong is in position there, he just has to keep himself in the rearview mirror of Kemp. And Kemp's worrying more about that than he is up front.
Watching from through the helmet cam now and up through the S's. I think Kemp looks a little bit farther back from El Baga this time by. They've got lap traffic. Jake Steinbrink in front of them. He's going to stay to the left so that he isn't a hindrance. Terrence Tong catches up slightly, but nothing doing it, looks like. Starting to see a lot of spread amongst the drivers, at least up at the front. Meanwhile, down here, farther just inside the top 10, Krebs trying to outrun Glen, and they've also got Ben Lung in the 290 machine right behind them, DJ.
Yeah, they do indeed, and I think there that David Glen had a little bit of a lift off again coming down that long backstretch. Didn't want to fully go for the move on Volker Krebs. I'm not sure if that was a fuel saving or if it was a just not wanting to send it in there too deep and run the risk of getting into an incident. But what that has done is it's really allowed for Ben Leong to get involved in this conversation in that 290. He is looking very, very menacing behind. He's even going to have a little bit of a look. No, just a little bit of a feint. See if he can force him offline. That's exactly what Leong wanted to do, but not able to capitalize on it. But now Leong knows that he is in the head of David Glen.
Yeah, just gave him some space at the apex, and well, the car wasn't there to take it, so all it did was slow him down. And into the penultimate turn, the 172, clearly a little bit frazzled by the 290, willing to be shaken off of the regular racing line. Ooh, and Peter Roth in the 96 has had an off back there. He's going to be able to get the car going in the meantime after hitting the wall. Down into the 90 once again. Our battle just inside the top 10 now climbs back up the hill. It looks like Glen has distanced himself from Ben, and now Andrade in the number 12 has a fantastic run. The Kansas City driver is quickly approaching Rachel to the back of the 290.
Yeah, it really is looking for the move here. He's got a good positioning, but he's not going to be close enough, I don't think. He might try and pop out, but I think it's a little bit too optimistic to really try for anything yet. Looking a bit further back, we are seeing some passing of Chip Witt there. Oh, car going very wide on the outside there. Not sure who that was, but definitely keeping that on the outside, holding the good line. Actually has it secure before they turn down into the boot. It's exactly where you want to be.
Ambrosino 13th, Chip Witt 14th. And behind them, that's Patrick Gill as well. So these are all three for position. And once again, not quite down to the apex for the 08s as we hop on board with Chip. Going to try and get himself as good a traction as he can off of the toe of the boot. Doesn't look like he got great because he starts to fall back until we finally get onto the binders now. Into the heel, switching back, and pretty soon they'll be on the main course once again. This fight is not over.
No, it certainly isn't. You can see just a little bit of that feathering coming up and over as we ride on board with the helmet cam up Chip Witt. There we go out on board, but Chip's got to be careful. That's Patrick Gill directly behind him as well. This could all fire off here if he gets too aggressive too early.
Well, I think I asked if the drivers would pay heed to some of the pitfalls, and well, your answer is we've only had 3 DNFs thus far. So that is a very good sign in such a huge field. Little look to the inside from Patrick Gill, but nothing serious is up in front of them. That is the red number 12 of Fabio Andrade. And, oh, something happened to Facciolo. Facciolo is in pit lane. Does he have a penalty? Doesn't look like it. I think this is a scheduled stop, Rachel, so I wonder if this is him just taking an early strategy.
It could very well be. It's not exactly the worst opportunity to do something like that, but it's going to be a little bit bold to go that soon.
Ooh, and Patrick Gill managed to overtake Chip Witt on his way up the backstretch. Nicely done. Now he sets his sights on Ambrosino, fellow very bright green car. And this is 18 positions up for Gill. Ambrosino, though, no slouch, 11 gained for him. Chip Witt, for those who are curious, is only up 5. I say only as somebody's off. That was Andrade. That was coming through the toe of the boot. So that is another position that they all gained, and that was just driver error, DJ. He just oversteered that thing all the way to the outside.
Just got on the power too early there, I think, is what happened. And you've got to be patient coming around these long flowing corners here, Joe. You see him get on the binders, drives it in. Oh, yep, there it is.
No saving it from there, unfortunately. As we come back live now, and he is running, so it looked like a pretty decent hit, but I think it wasn't bad enough that took him out of this race. I do want to give a bit of a mention to our leaders because, yes, they separated like I mentioned, but Elbaga's only 0.8 of a second behind right now with how quickly Garrett jumped away at the line, Rachel. I thought that he was just going to romp away with this one.
Yeah, he is. Elbaga's really closed that gap in. That's a big achievement really right now because it's tied this grouping in together. Kemp isn't far away from Elbaga. So this is really bringing his whole front of the field together. Maybe Taylor's just playing the fuel game. Maybe he's just saving a bit of his tyres, a bit of his fuel. He's in a good commanding position. Opportunity to do that. However, you don't give away too much, or this happens and we have a three-way for the win.
Yeah, it's now down to 0.5 of a second. Something going on here. Not sure if he got some damage that we didn't see or what. I'm trying to check his lap times here. And nothing looks too outrageous, but Elbaga's been a lot more consistent. He's only had a single lap outside of the 44s, whereas Taylor has been a mix of 45s and 44s so far. So the 529 car just cannot keep up the pace for some reason, DJ.
No, he just can't. Maybe feeling a little bit of the pressure. He may have overcooked his tires a little bit, trying to push really hard early on, and it's just coming back to bite him here. But even looking on this past lap, it looks like Elbaga is able to gain up times in the first two sectors, and then in the last, in sector 3 and 4, it's about matched, but very, very interesting here as it continues to go along. Taking out another 66 thousandths of a second on that last lap was Elbaga.
Just mildly quicker last time, although, as we said, at moments he was within 0.5 of a second. That was just on the entry into the boot amongst the two of them that he's seen to gain. As we come back to 7th place, Dennis. This is chasing Will Waldron and Michael Patterson. Haven't really checked in on these guys in some time to see how this one is unfolding. This is a good run from Waldron, though, Rachel, I think he's going to run out of straightaway.
Yeah, I think he definitely will indeed. Really not got room to get anything done there as much as he'd like to, but he's put himself in a really strong position to have an attack in the next lap or two. I think it will need to be a bit of a build-up to that, but it's one of those brave spots. There are better and easier spots to pass than into that corner.
As they come out of the chute, he gets it down to about 0.4 of a second between them. Also, Terrence Tong has been falling backwards to them. Now, why is Tong now suddenly dropping in pace? I did notice it was about 1.5 seconds back not long ago, but now it's 3 seconds back from Kemp, and very clearly, visibly, 5th, 6th, and 7th are gaining, DJ.
He's just been running in the 45s this entire time, Joe. It looks like he is just losing a little bit of pace, whereas Kemp has been able to consistently run in the 44s. Tong is back in the 45s, and it's really hurting him.
Well, will we see him maybe pit here soon? Does he have some unseen damage? Is this some fuel strategy once again? He's going to carry on. No pit stop this time for the 29 machine. Elbaga, by the way, last time was 2/10 quicker than Garrett Taylor. So another bit chopped away, and he's bringing Kemp with him. Rachel, this might be a 3-car fight the way it's going.
I think it could be. It's entirely possible. I'm not sure if we can see that go to the line, but I would love to. In terms of, as a broadcaster, this is exactly the kind of race you want. You don't like seeing the leader run away. Of course, it's great for them, but we like to see them racing each other. It's a lot more fun.
Ooh, big attack here. Yes, indeed. And it looks like Patterson's going to stay defensive as they break into the outer loop. Jay Dennis is going to try and see if he can get one over on the 33 as well as they go wheel to wheel down into the chutes. And Waldron is going to retain that spot as they switch back. And now look at Dennis trying to use a little bit of trickery, see if he can launch himself up to the side. No, he gets covered off. The 33 cuts down to the apex at the toe of the boot. Battle carries on, DJ, with Waldron only 2/10 ahead.
Exactly. They've got to be careful about this. They don't want to lose touch with everybody in front of them as they go along, but they are keeping this fight up, just running 1, 2, 3, 4, throw a blanket over all 4 of them.
This is going to get spicy, no doubt, especially if Tong continues to lose to the likes of Patterson. And into the penultimate turn, we come to Leon, who's going to take a dive into turn 9. It's not successful, unfortunately, but he's threatening. Krebs probably looking in the mirror at this point. Both of them need to do so, though. David Glen is right there within half a second, waiting to pick up the pieces, Rachel.
Yeah, he really is. Glen is right where he wants to be for this, to really have an advantage. Leon Krebs, the more you fight, the more you bring other people into the fight. And the Hill Country region driver of Glen is definitely one that will take advantage if he is presented that opportunity. The top 10 would really benefit him.
Waldron went wide at turn 1. He is going to find himself demoted down to 7th because of that. So we follow those behind them. And back to Elbaga. He is now 5/10 behind. Last lap was about 2/10 quicker once again. And Kemp still at about 0.6 of a second behind the pair of them. We're past the halfway mark at this stage. So the way things are going, Tamer, if the trend continues, should be able to catch up enough to try and actually get by. But it's one thing catching, DJ. It's another thing to pass.
It is indeed, and we could be looking at these drivers maybe to use a little bit of pit strategy as the way to jump one another. This could be a situation where Elbaga is able to even save a little bit of fuel. This could be a situation where Garrett Taylor's doing a little bit of lifting and coasting, and that's why we're seeing him run into the back of Tamer Elbaga. And if they are able to take a little bit less fuel during the course of the pit stop, that could be just enough to be able to jump them up ahead in order.
Watching this and also watching Leung and Krebs, who are still very tightly bunched together in the field. Oh, we got a pitter. That's going to be Tamer. He is in. He lets Kemp go, and Kemp now has to try and make up that gap to Taylor because he has nobody towing him along like he did when Elbaga was there in second place. Will that have an effect on his pace?
Well, that gap means now that we've lost that. The draft gap time has cut away, so this frees Garrett Taylor to get some safe space and distance here along the track, which will put him in a great position. Kemp is going to be disadvantaged. He's not going to be able to hold on to that. There's no one behind him to push him either.
David Glen, Albie Blanco both pit in, so there's definitely a few that are willing to try and pit slightly early here to see if it can give them track position. Looks like Peter Rote in the 96 is also going to be coming in. Oh, Chip Witt just had a problem. Chip Witt out of turn 9. Looks like he managed to catch it without hitting anything, which is very lucky, DJ, because turn 9 really doesn't offer much chance to get away with that.
No, it does not. The barrier is right there on the outside. You see a little bit of a smile on Chip's face. That is the smile of a man who just stared death in the eye and got around it.
Yeah, car still whole, maybe overheated the tires a little bit, but he's still running. That's the important thing at a race like this where there's so many cars, and just keeping it pointed forward will no doubt pay dividends. Elbaga, for what it's worth, returned to the track in 11th. He's in front of some traffic. I'm seeing if he came out behind them. The answer is no. He has been in clear air this whole time, so this is good news for fans of the 043.
Yeah, really should be huge for Obaga. He's got nice clean air there on the racetrack, as he'll hopefully be advantageous in the long run. We'll have to see how this cycle does go through, but...
Behind him, contact between Sarumi and Stewart. Thankfully, they get away with it, but that was a big punch to the rear of that car as Stewart will fall down to 14th because of that incident, and it does look like there's a bit of damage here on the front.
Yes, it does. So this is the replay here. Let's take a look. Now, this is going to be going down into the heel of the boot. Oh, just misjudged the braking zone, Joe. Just missed it out, and that is exactly what can happen if you are not fully anticipating what can happen with the driver in front of you.
So I'm guessing he's probably going to take his free repair because of that. And looks like Sean Murphy is in. Volker Krebs also pitting. We head over to Michael Patterson, who's being aggressive here, Rachel, on Terrence Tong.
Oh, he really is, yeah. And you know what? I'd also be pretty aggressive on Terrence Tong myself, because I was having a quick look through his bio earlier, and he described a hot dog as a sandwich. The Toronto driver has no taste and apparently doesn't understand food, so that's a bit of a confusing head scratch on my part, but apparently he knows his Porsches, though. He is pretty quick.
Albie Blanco gets out of the way after his pit stop. He sees all of them easily through. A bit of a thank you from Tong over the radio. Now will we start to see drivers come in? This is about the distance that we saw many go in the challenge split. The sport was obviously a little bit compromised. We didn't really get to see what their fuel mileage was going to be like. So is this now everybody in? Taylor's in, Kemp's in, Tong's in. Patterson gains a bit of time under braking. In fact, almost looks like he was held up slightly, DJ, as Tong braked early.
Yeah, Terrence Tong very, very cautious going down into pit lane, and that really left Patterson nowhere to go. But what I think that's going to do is that will end up gaining Patterson just a little bit of time, and now it's just going to all come down to if these virtual pit crews are able to do their job nice and quickly.
Watching to see if anybody has the wherewithal to make the fuel go 15 laps, and so far no dice. Sarumi's in, Reese is in, and Obaga's coming around, but Taylor is out easily ahead of him. In fact, the gap looks to have increased slightly. It's now up to 2 seconds between them. Kemp at about a second back behind the 043. And then Tong has continued to fall away. It looks like it's about 4.5 seconds, Rachel. The good news for him is it seems like those who were chasing him have had a poor stop comparatively.
Which is a huge benefit. It might secure his position he has right now, but it's going to take a while for us to see if he can really hold that in the long run, because he's not got the draft effect that the groups will have, and the rest of the cars around him are relatively grouped up.
Yeah, in fact, grouped up enough that they're going to battle side by side. Waldron versus Dennis around the outer loop. Dennis denies him, able to pull in front. Yeah, I'm looking at the pit stop times. Tong about a second faster than Patterson, so that separated those two. But also Jay Dennis and Will Waldron were quicker than Michael Patterson in their pit stall, so that seems to have helped them. Everybody really needs to get every single part of this race right, because it's certainly having an effect on multiple battles out there, DJ.
Well, it certainly is. And Joe, let's not forget what happened in the second race Wednesday night, where we saw multiple drivers running out of fuel. They miscalculated the fuel. Now, granted, that was with a safety car deployed at the beginning of the race. However, I'm going to be keeping an eye on those shorter pit stop times to see if something similar happens here.
And there seems to be something that happened with Lonray Sarumi. I'm trying to... Sarumi missed his pit stall and backed up too far and got disqualified. Oh, well, that is a hard lesson, but a very important lesson to learn, Rachel.
Yes, to win a race, you must first go forwards.
And looks like they've cleared the black flags. We'll see if Sarumi is able to get back out on the track after that, but obviously it's going to be a huge compromise. And we got a bit of a battle here down into turn one. Also, Jay Dennis, Michael Patterson might be going side by side pretty soon here. And down into the corner on the inside, Patterson holding station over Dennis despite managing to get all the way up to the nose. Jay looks like he wants another go. No, he is going to get chopped off down at the apex.
And not able to get it done quite there. And that's what I was talking about, Joe. And going into the outer loop there, it's very, very difficult to get that pass done. Incredibly tricky to actually execute there, even though you are getting the full maximum benefit of the draft. It is frankly far better to set yourself up running through the boot here, looking for those opportunities just like that, down to the inside, cut off and blocking up the brakes.
Oof, all over the back bumper of that 29. Can he switch back maybe here? Slightly different lines between them, but not enough of a difference. He's going to stay behind. Patterson retains P5. Will Waldron probably licking his chops there, thinking this is my chance to get back in, get one of these spots that I lost recently. But Dennis has no mind on the rearview mirror here. He is continuing to just weave back and forth, trying to find an opening somewhere on Michael Patterson, Rachel.
Yeah, he really is. Patterson is the primo target right now for him, and it's going to be a tough run to see if he can do anything with that. Patterson has been so quick. He's going to have to really find his opportunity and make that one chance count.
So as our drivers now get into the final 10 minutes here pretty soon, look at this. Down into the outer loop once again. Dennis around the outside and fully passed, and he's going to chop down. That's going to be 5th place for Jay Dennis after multiple laps of trying. But here comes Patterson with a pretty decent exit, but he does not take the inside racing line. A little bit of a late look. And then looks like that one is now finally over. So Dennis solidifies that 5th position.
And here we watch Nick Facciolo in 15th trying to get past the 171 of Chip Witt. This is going to be a side-by-side situation. Who's going to be the best of the late breakers here? It looks like there that Facciolo is going to be able to hold some momentum around the outside. He's going to have the preferred line going down into the chute. Does he have it? But momentum is going to favor back to Chip Witt. They're still side-by-side, Joe.
Great fight back from Chip Witt, the 171, trying to see if he can send it up the inside as he breaks deep for the toe of the boot. Long way around for Facciolo, and he cuts back underneath, giving him critically the inside into the heel of the boot. That was a savvy move from the 717. Well, let's see if he can get it done. No, he breaks early, or does Chip Witt break too late? He makes the corner, Rachel, and that is going to get it done in Chip's favor.
Yeah, look at that grin on Chip's face. He is a seasoned campaigner in this series, of course, and a very why'd I say that?
And he hits the wall to boot.
He has 17 zero-incident races, and I said he's clean, and then he hit the wall.
0 days. 0 days since Rachel has commentators curse somebody as Chip Witt hits the wall where he missed last time. I guess it was almost fate, DJ, that he missed it the first time. You can't get away lucky too many times there.
No, you can't. You can't tempt fate all that often. But we ride back on board with Michael Patterson, trying to close in on Jay Dennis and Tara Tong right ahead of him.
Yep, this is for those top spots. Tong still within that 4th place, and he's been just hovering there since he managed to take it at the start. Jay Dennis just kind of watching and waiting. Patterson having been overtaken. Patterson couldn't get the job done. Will we see Jay Dennis do it this time? Or could it maybe be Will Waldron still hanging out back there as he's struggling to just keep up? We watch from the onboard of Terrence. Back at the trio, trying to chase him down. They've only got 8 minutes to get it done, Rachel.
8 minutes can be an eternity in a race like this. It can also be no time at all. When you need to make a pass, it is no time. When you've got to hold somebody off, it's forever. So it's one of those relativity matters for these guys. And, well, relatively speaking, Garrett Taylor's still clear out of this thing. Obaga, though, has brought that time even closer down there.
Yeah, it's still at 0.8 of a second between our top two as we watch Tong, Dennis, and Patterson fly out of the 90, just outside of the podium, but it still counts for points. It's still valuable to these guys, even if it's not going to be for a win. In fact, our top 3 are still in exactly the same positions that they started this race in.
They are indeed, Joe, but I've got to say Tamer El-Baga is continuing to shed time away from Garrett Taylor. The gap is now down to under 0.6 of a second. It's not ready to fire off yet, but I'm keeping my eye on it.
Back to Ambrosino. It's Patrick Gill in front of him. These two have been at each other's throats almost all race long. But last time we looked in, Gill was behind Aaron. Let's see as they head towards the outer loop if he'll stay defensive or Ambrosino cut back across, Gill cut back across. Ambrosino does go to the outside to try and go down to the inside and give a nice wide line through the outer loop. That gains him a bit of speed, but not enough, Rachel.
Nowhere near enough right now. He's got to keep this one in the bag and hopefully get a later chance to do this, because once you burn an opportunity like that, you've got to set it up again from the start.
Well, they've only got, about 3 laps here, 3 or 4 laps to try and make it happen as they come out of the toe of the boots. I'm keeping half an eye on this and half an eye on our leaders to see if they continue to get closer. Still nothing out of Ambrosino there into the heel-o, but a little bit wide for Patrick Gill. Looked like Aaron tried to carry the speed as best he could. Cuts back through turn 9, and he's slow off on the off-camber corner. So Ambrosino, who briefly was very close, drops back by a couple car lengths, and instead we come up front to the battle between Tong, Dennis, and Patterson.
Exactly, and it looks like Jay Dennis has got a pretty good run here, bringing that gap down 1/10 of a second. He's going to have his nose to the outside, as that is Terrence Tong trying to go defensive, but I think the momentum may be favoring Jay Dennis here.
It's been a long, hard fight for Terrence Tong, and he's going to have to give up the ghost. Jay Dennis is now into 4th, 7 positions up, and at the sharp end of the field, that is nothing to shake a stick at. Looks like Patterson saw it and wants to try and do likewise, unable to make that stick. But he's seen an example, Rachel, and will that help him to try and get through now?
It might, but it's going to be difficult to do that. He's going to have to hope for some mistakes to really get this one to secure itself, but he's a quick driver. He can do anything he can.
So in spite of that black flag for Lonray Sarumi, he has gone up 23 positions in this race. Very stunning stuff there for the 43. I guess he can thank his lucky stars, DJ, that the stewards are a little bit more lenient than they were with Nigel Mansell when it comes to backing up in the pits.
Indeed, Joe, indeed. That 43 doing a good job. Oh, we've got to focus back in here, because Terrence Tong not looking like he is giving up the ghost on Jay Dennis quite yet.
All 4 in a line. Our leaders just crossed with about 4:20 to go. So that is going to make it 3 laps left here, I think. And down into the 90. Ooh, this is the closest we've seen them in some time. As Terrence Tong gets on the loud pedal, Patterson is about 0.3 of a second back and gaining 145 miles an hour already, Rachel.
Giving this one the beans right now up the straight here. The big long drive. He's maybe close enough to get a slingshot here. He's going to have to go for it if he gets it. I think he will not be quite there by the time they reach the corner. So this might have to be latter half the lap.
Oh, and he gains down through the middle of the corner, but nothing doing. Tong just slices down in front. Here comes Waldron. Oh, and a defense, or is that an attack? I can't tell which. All 3 of them went down to the inside right at the last moment, DJ.
Hi, Joe, just absolute craziness there. This is what happens when you get into a multi-class battle or multi-car battle like this so late in the race. You love to see it.
Another defensive move from Patterson, covering the inside, but so is Tong once again. He's way farther ahead from them. Don't know why he is going down to the inside, down to the heel of the boots. And now we get a 2 to go from the flag stand for these drivers, as Garrett Taylor's just coming out of the final quarter. There's the distance between El-Baga and Taylor. It is only 0.8 of a second, Rachel.
Oh, it's nothing, but it's everything right now because he can hold that. It's on the outer limit of the draft range. It means if he gets out of this DSS here, he will not be close enough to use that draft to suck up and pass. But he's just close enough to be kept with him. So it's almost too far.
Yeah, he's going to have to really hustle from here. Hope that he's got a fast couple of final laps. And it did seem like earlier he had the pace, he was gaining, but maybe it was like Rachel said, DJ, that Garrett was more managing the race and managing his fuel up to that point. But I think we got to go back to Patterson and Waldron here.
I think we do indeed, because they are very, very close together. Again, this is that battle that continues to go. There they are, side by side, going down to the outer loop, Joe.
Not able to get past him. Waldron has been so close all race long behind not just Patterson, but other drivers before. He was chasing Jay Dennis earlier, son of Glen Dennis here in this series. And Ambrosino now, as we take a look at the 13th place car, is going to try and attack on Gill, Rachel.
He's going to go for what he can here as he comes up to the carousel. It's going to be close, but it's not going to be close enough to actually secure anything here or even attempt to get alongside. They'll have to try for something into the toe of the boot or maybe down here into this arch here if he can manage to get all big lockups there. God, these guys are getting exciting. Waldron, the perpetual bridesmaid of this race, not quite able to keep him away, but he's fending him off for now.
Somebody didn't tell him it's something blue, not something green on the car. As they come across the line, our leaders now get the white flag, 1 to go. Taylor, Albaga, and Kemp are roughly about 6 seconds apart from one another, with the top two split by less than a second. I don't know about this, DJ. I feel like Tamer is now too far behind unless he gets an actual mistake out of the 529.
I have to agree with you, although they do not really have any lap traffic up ahead of them, so that is not going to be too much of a concern there. He has just got to hope for a little bobble. That gap is coming down underneath 0.8 of a second, but I think it's too little too late for Tamer Albaga.
They do have some battling for position in front of them. For some of the drivers down around 36th, 35th, and so on. So if those drivers get into a wreck, that might cause a checkup that could help Albaga. We'll have to watch and see. They are a bit of ways ahead, so they will see it coming if something does happen. Let's cross our fingers that it does not, Rachel.
Oh, absolutely. Cross fingers and toes. The last thing you want to do is come up upon cars back into position on the last lap. It's really when no one's going to give anybody an inch of ground. But this is down to the wire here, and it is so close. It's half a second. One more lap at half a second might be the chance he needs.
Yeah, half a second is better. Definitely an improvement. But Garrett, we knew he was, well, we assume he was maybe managing it before. There's another little wide run as he started to feel the pressure. That was a mistake. It's down to 0.3. Could be 0.2 by the exit of this corner. If he makes a bad run out of the final turn, the 0.43 could snatch the victory away. But no, it is going to be a win for Garrett Taylor here in race 1 of Series 8.
Fantastic run there for Garrett, just perfectly managing the pressure from behind him. We jump back, Will Waldron trying to get the final move on Michael Patterson, but I think just like Garrett Taylor, he is going to be able to hold it off. Michael Patterson, he will hold on to that 6th place position.
Looking behind them to see if we got any more battles. Looks like Krebs here being chased by Glen. This is for the top 10 spots, but Volker Krebs is nice and tidy off the turn. So it looks like the Haribo car will stay with that 10th position. Chip Witt, wow, what an adventure today has been for him. He's fighting for 14th. Facciolo just in front of him. It's a good run. I don't think he's got enough straightaway, though.
I don't think he has, but the gritting campaigner there in Chip Witt has definitely put up a good one today. Fabio coming across the line there as well, 19th.
31 drivers to finish on the lead lap today. That's actually very impressive here, that everybody was that close on pace in this 40-minute event that we only had maybe about 4 or 5 of them legitimately go laps down. The others wound up having incidents that sent them backwards, but this is all for position here once again. Blanco, Urbesh, Nations, Naiden, and looks like Steinbrink's the only one that's not involved in the fight as he's a couple laps down. One more corner to go, and I think Urbesh has got it under control. 13 positions up for him. Nations, unfortunately, 24 down. This will be a day to forget for the 18 car. So that is going to take us to our results from this race. And there you can see it was Garrett Taylor who was our winner. Tamer Albaga was second, and Stephen Kemp rounds out your podium. Exactly where they started the race. Jay Dennis came up from 11th, gaining 7 spots for 4th. Terrence Tong in 5th. And then Michael Patterson falling 2 spots to 6th. Will Waldron was 7th. Sean Murphy 8th. And Ben Leung 9th. Then it's Volker Krebs rounding out your top 10, DJ.
In 11th, it was David Glen, followed by Patrick Gill with Aaron Ambrosino and Nick Bacciolo behind them. Trey Davis was 15th, followed by Chip Witt and Lonray Sarumi, up 24 on the day. Richard Franco was 18th, Fabio Andretti was in 19th, and Gary Reese rounds out your top 20.
21st is Peter Roth with Logan Grado 22nd, Bruce Robinson 23rd, Eduardo Moll in 24th, Ken Eskridge 25th, Andrew Elson 26th, Dave Stewart in 27th, with 28th, Albie Blanco, Neil Eberish, and Aaron Nations in 30th.
Last on the lead lap was Mike Knight in 31st. John Montgomery was 32nd, and George Markadakis, despite having to take an extra stop for fuel, still managed to come home, but it was 33rd. Keith Morgan was 34th, and Jake Steinbrink was 35th, the last one lap down. Donald Binkley was 36th, 2 laps down, and from there, it looks like drivers who either had DNFs or were majorly compromised by wrecks today. I believe we have Garrett Taylor ready to talk to us in the 529. And after having a great start, Garrett suddenly started to be run down a little bit later in the first stint. So Garrett, we have to ask, were you managing pace, or was Tamer just consistently faster than you? What was going on that lost you the gap that you had started with?
Yeah, he was a little bit faster than I was, and that draft is pretty powerful down that straightaway. So
that explains it then. But after the pit stops, it seemed like things were mostly clear. It looked a little tight at the last lap. You let it get down to about 0.2 of a second. Again, was there any just kind of managing things, or was he really gunning you down?
a little of both. Yeah, I mean, the tires were definitely going away, but he was definitely faster than I was too. So.
Well, it certainly gave us an exciting finish, at least, because all three of you managed to finish exactly where you started. But, I mean, pole to victory, that's a good sign for championship hopes. Does this give you high hopes of trying to maybe aim for the crown this series?
Yeah. I mean, we'll see how next week goes, but that's the goal, P1.
Well, we'll keep an eye out for you. Congratulations on the win, and who helped make it happen?
My Matrix teammates really helped me get dialed in this week, so they were a big help.
That was Garrett Taylor, your winner here today, as DJ's now caught up with Tamer Albaga, finishing second, but a very close second.
I have indeed, Tamer. That was tantalizingly close there. Talk me through that chase down of Garrett.
Oh, well, yeah, thanks. I mean, it was definitely a fun race. A little conservative to start, and then, just chasing down. I think the pace was pretty even throughout, and then, we got a little close. I at some point I thought I can maybe kind of do an over-under in the pits, and it just didn't work out. Garrett ran a great race, but it was fun overall.
Well, you talked about starting off a little bit conservative. How hard were you pushing near the end of that race when you started to see that gap hovering at about a second or so?
Yeah, probably a little too hard. At some point, I think I hit the wall at a turn 12 with about 4 laps to go, and I think that was that. I just was pushing a little too hard. Garrett kept that pressure up, to have me try to keep the pace, and just made a little mistake and just had to follow home.
Well, any lessons you can take out of this race and the battle with him going into Sebring next week?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's some pretty fast guys here. It's the first time podium for me. So, I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to close battles. Sebring is definitely a different beast altogether. But I don't expect the battles to be less close, so it should be fun.
Well, I know we're certainly looking forward to it, Tamer. But anybody you'd like to thank for this second place here today?
Yeah, I mean, I always thank my Raisin Toter team. We're always kind of chatting and practicing together. My family for letting me do this thing for so many hours. You guys for a great job that you do, and the sponsors, of course.
Well, thank you so much. That was Tamer Albaga, your second place finisher here today.
Looks like Rachel's now caught up with Stephen Kemp, finishing third, a little bit farther behind from what we saw from the first two.
Certainly seemed that way, Stephen. A fantastic race today, and you started third. You ended up coming home third. Just how was it for you up at that end?
Well, I know I've been practicing with Garrett, so I knew the only way I could stay with him was in his draft. And I hadn't run with Tamer, but he was right with him. So I made a mistake. I lost the draft, and then I kind of lost touch with him. But yeah, great win for those two, for Garrett, and Tamer did a great job.
So, of course, we have a different track to this coming up next week. This car is obviously quite a handful with the lack of traction control and no ABS. It makes it much more of a driver's experience. Just what's it going to be like going to a really bumpy stop-start track like Sebring this week?
Oh, well, it's a tough track. I mean, this is a beautiful track, and it's so well cambered. I mean, really, that's a historic track. It's got a lot of history. It's got a lot of character, but it's flat and it's bumpy, and some of the corners are quite difficult. So, yeah, it's a really, really challenging track, but yet kind of a special track, I think. So it'll be exciting and a handful for sure for this car.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing you do another podium position there. Anybody like to give a shout out to or thank?
Well, I got to thank Chris Pies and Leif Peterson for spending time with us on the Cup car and the Zone series. I really got to love the car. And anyway, thanks to those guys for showing us the Cup car and teaching it to us, because I just think it's a great car.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. Stephen Kemp coming home third.
All right, thanks.
And with that, so we now have a special presentation we'd like to share from Aaron Ambrosino, National Club Vice President and PCA Sim Racer.
While our automotive hobby brings us great joy, and the camaraderie and friendly competition with other drivers makes it all the better, there are times when we have to deal with sadness in our beloved hobby. We recently lost one of our own when Jason Lisner passed away on March 4th. Jason was one of the original PCA sim racing participants, racing in the very first event at Sebring on March 1st, 2019. He dueled throughout the event with Billy Smith and finished second overall. At the last race of Series 1 at Daytona, Jason's last lap pass on Billy was an epic moment for PCA sim racing. It had all the thrills of the real thing, especially for those of us who participated early in PCA sim racing. Billy won the first year championship, but Jason won our hearts. We want to pay condolences to all of Jason's family and friends, and to the members of his PCA region first settlers. Please join us in a moment of silence for Jason Lisner.
goes around the outside, but it's not enough.
And hunting for a way by it.
Hollander's going to come back at him. It's going to be a race to the line. Does he have enough? Welcome back to Watkins Glen. We are here in the qualifying session for the PCA Sim Racing Series 8 qualifying on the Pro Class. So, right now on screen, the 26 of Rafael Amorim, who has been quick in recent events for the PCA, has the provisional pole, and by about 3.5 tenths of a second over Chris Walsh. Travis Brody also incredibly tight, only a thousandth back from the 104 machine back there in second and third. There you see Walsh as well getting ready to complete a lap. DJ, let's see who it manages to improve here. There's Brody's camera as they finish lap number 2.
Indeed, Brody's going to be hoping for a little bit of a better time here, see if he can bump his way up the grid. That's not going to be an improvement there for him, although for Rafael Amorim, that is the purple time. That is the fastest lap set of 43.759.
So Amorim, the only one of those top 3 able to improve. Looks like Leif Peterson, though, gets within 0.06 of a second of Brody, so that could be a fun one. And Chris Pies as well. Actually, the top 5, all top 6 within roughly 0.5 of a second. This is some impressive stuff here as we see Charles Lau's foot cam, actually. Finger Lakes region driver, maybe hoping to give a few tips to those who want to try and get themselves a little bit faster. Interesting how stiffly that that brake pedal is sprung here, Rachel, because he's not moving it much at all. So as he comes off of the penultimate turn, Charles Yao in 28th position down to the line, and it does look like it's going to be an improvement. It's a 44.8, which is about half a second faster, so that's 19th place for him. Amorim is coming around. Walsh is coming around. Brody is coming around. No, Brody is not. Actually, Brody's parked it, but Peterson is. Will any of them now go faster on this last lap around as we watch J.R. Gregory? Amorim does not have that last lap count. Walsh doesn't go faster, and Peterson doesn't either. So there's your top 4 done with qualifying. Chris Pies also parks it at the end of the 3rd lap. Wow. So, DJ, it looks like much of the front runners only able to go quickest on that first go round.
Yeah, and that's a little bit surprising, Joe. Track temperatures aren't particularly toasty around here. It's only 68 degrees, so I would have expected some better lap times on lap 2 or 3, but that's clearly not the case. Not a lot of drivers being able to get in those better times, although I am seeing Oregon Gerlach being able to put a fast time down in 21st position. Trace Dahlhorn here, who we are looking at right now, currently running around there. Jacob Schum able to bump his way up into 16th, so some time still to be had, but not as quick as I would have expected.
Apparently, Amorim had touched the wall on that last corner, and that's why his last lap got deleted. And this is Drawhorn's first lap, or first race here in the PCA for some time, as he is a longtime participant in this series, as he's got himself one last lap to try and get above 21st spot here, Rachel, and looks like 0.02 of a second to reach the top 20.
Yeah, this could be an opportunity for him to do something here. We'll see if he can manage that, but it's a long way to go and not a lot of time left to go.
Out of turn 9. He's got enough time to finish this lap, at least. A little bit of a slide coming off of those last couple corners. This one looked a little better. Let's see how he does off the final turn. taking it right up to the wall, just about 6 inches to spare. And as he crosses the line, a 44.847 is about 200ths off of his best. So that's not going to be any quicker. We got about 30 seconds left. And I think Jacob Schum, nope, he's parking it. Yeah, that's going to be it. That's everybody able to set a time, having set a time. So that means let's go through our starting grid here today. Raphael Amorim on the pole is followed by Chris Walsh to his outside. Travis Brody starts from P3. It's Leif Peterson in 4th, followed by Chris Pies in 5th. To his outside, it'll be Rodney Campbell. Then you've got Grant Talkie on the inside of the next row. Ed Eisenring will be 8th. And Bandu Apadie will be in 9th, followed by Tristan Bayless in 10th.
Daniel Rube will be lining up in 11th, followed by Lyle Eddy and Ed Nelson, with Nicky Chan and Joe Stifel behind them. Jacob Schum will be 16th, followed by Glenn Dennis. Robert LaCroix will be 18th, followed by Rick Reisenberg, and Charles Yao rounds out your top 20.
21st is Trey Drawhorn with Ogren Graup in 22nd, Jeremy Masriallo in 23rd, Joe Gregory 24th, Joe Sinclair 25th, Mario Gonzalez 26th, Stephen Chen in 27th, Gabriel Albano in 28th, with Julian Velez in 29th, and Huey Kang in 30th. 31st is Robert Cottle and Christian Rava 32nd.
There's your 32-car field here, and we just about have everybody gridded up. As the engines start to rev, they're ready to go. And the green flag is out. Ooh, it's not a good start for Travis Brody. It looks like Pies is going to be on the attack as they come down into the 90, but he's going to have to do it the long way around if he can keep the momentum up, and he does. He's going to have 3rd place. Behind them, they all file into that first right-hand corner. I'm not seeing any incidents. We are clean.
We are clean and green here, Joe. A lot of drivers being a little bit more careful up through the S's as compared to what we saw in the last series. Not a lot of too wide drivers, just trying to be very, very careful. Up front, Raphael Amorim weaving around a little bit. He's got some pressure from Chris Walsh.
And the 770 trying to attack on Peterson as well as they plunge down into the outer loop. Looks like Peterson's going to be able to hold that down. And breaking into the chute, we're starting to get a little more single file. Looks like Eddie and Nelson in the 959 in a side-by-side attack back there in the background. The green car of Lyle Eddy moves up into 10th with that one, Rachel.
Yeah, he does, and really getting that car in position where he wants it to make another move further forwards. He's still got a good group of cars around him, so plenty of opportunity for some good attacks.
Still, Amorim leads Walsh, leads Pies. There's your podium. Almost the same as they started, except for Pies, who's up 2 positions with a brilliant run off the line. Rodney Campbell back in 7th, who we ride on board with. He is is putting Bandu Yapye in under quite a bit of pressure here. The 770 has a mirror full of Rodney as they come around to complete lap 1. What the 62 needs now is a good enough exit off the final corner. Oh, that's definitely not a good enough exit. Smacks into the wall. And thankfully, DJ, it does not collect anybody else.
Indeed, some good avoidance there from the drivers around him. He's going to hope to be able to get through that without any major toe damage to the car. As we dive down now into the corner, that's the 929 there, and a little 959. That's Ed Nelson and Tristan Bayless having a nice little scrap. I thought that may have come to blows through the 90, but now Bayless is just going to tuck up behind here in the draft up through the S's and see if he can get anything by.
Chasing Nelson. But Ed is not given enough of a slipstream at this stage of the race. A little peek down as they hit the brakes here into the inner loop. And indeed, he's going to try, but Bayless is not going to be able to succeed in getting past. Looks like Campbell lost one more before all was said and done as Nicky Chan overtook into that outer loop. Meanwhile, back up to the front, Rachel. It looks like Amorim's got about 0.7 of a second. That's what we saw that lead hover at in the club race. Will we see something similar here?
We could well indeed. And the Brazilian originally driver, Raphael Amorim here, putting in a phenomenal run, echoing some of the spirits of his racing idol, Senna, as he really puts the gear into this thing and gives it everything he has. He's opening that gap a lot here, and he has the opportunity to break the draft on Walsh, which would be a pretty impressive feat. So Walsh is not slow.
Looks like Stephen Chin had an off coming out of the toe of the boot. He gets it rolling once again, so no big dramas there. The bright red 26 up to 0.9 of a second of those last few corners. Really finding something. Instead, it looks like maybe Pies will be able to overtake the 104 for seconds. Could he then potentially even try and catch up to Raphael? We've seen Chris in the hunt for the wins here in the PCA a number of times in previous series. And as Walsh here in second, keeps it about 0.4 out of the first turn, DJ. I don't think Pies has enough of a run this time, but he's still in it.
He still is indeed, but he did set the fastest lap of the race last time out, did Chris Pies. Ooh, he's going to poke his nose to the inside a little bit. That's not really a move. He's just trying to see if he can get anything to go, trying to see if he can force Chris Walsh into an error. I like that head game from Chris Pies.
Ooh, we got a lot of battling happening around 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th. There are so many that are close together down to the chute. Look at this side by side as that is Bayless and Talkie. Talkie with a bad start, 6 positions down from where he began. Apparently, he says he forgot to put it in gear.
That's a common thing. Like, that can happen a lot on standing starts. People are just chilling there, they get ready. It's the one thing they don't think about, because when you're used to rolling starts, you're moving already. So, as stupid as it sounds, it can happen. Actually, I remember an IndyCar race we had on iRacing with the IndyCar Series drivers, and one of the guys actually dropped himself into the pace mode and flipped off his engine on the pace lap. It can happen. People do these silly things in cars.
Indeed, and I recall, well, as we got a spin, and that's going to be Bayless. Just boinks the wall ever so slightly. The 9's going to be able to get it rolling. We're on board with Nicky Chan in the meantime, and Bayless is going to be able to get rolling. Now, the 000, we're used to seeing winning races. Not the case here, only sitting in 12th. Let's see if he can get up next to Stiefel in the 003 as they climb through the S's. Oh no, that's not going to help. Slaps the right-hand side of the car. It has been pancaked, DJ. He's going to be slow in a straight line now.
Yeah, he certainly is. I don't know how much damage he picked up to it, but you can see there that's Grant Talkie able to get the move done pretty easily if he's able to load that car up. No, Nicky Chan's going to be able to fight him back down to the inside. So that car clearly not as damaged as we thought it was. He's going to be able to keep going on.
Wow, this group here has been quite full of excitement. Grant Talkie now makes another mistake going wide down at the chute, falls back down to 14th. This has been a day for him, that's no doubt. As we come back to Chris Pies, ooh, he's closer than we've seen him before. There's those familiar googly eyes on his VR set, Rachel, and as he sticks right on the rear bumper of the 104. I think now at this point, if he stays these 3 to 0.2 of a second back, he's going to have a good enough run this time to give a go at it.
Yeah, no, he really is, and it's always good to see him put some work in behind this car. In a good spot right now, 3rd place, right at the back there of Chris Walsh, and really going to keep in this very honest. Walsh is quick, but Pies is one of those guys we've seen win many, many races, so it's always good to see him right up there on the back of things, and God, I want to mention that pet of his, but I really can't.
I think we've been forbidden from that for the time being. Yep. But Chris Walsh has got to wait until he sees the whites of Chris Pie's eyes here for the braking if he hopes to stay ahead. It did stay at about 0.3. He's going to gain. I don't think it is enough. And as he closes in, nope, he runs out of straightaway 162 miles an hour before they finally get on the binders. These things move, DJ.
Yeah, they certainly do. They've got a lot of top speed to be able to have at their disposal. And down the long backstretch with no bus stop, you can see it on full display here. Good lines, though, there for both Walsh and for Pies as they bring their way down into the boot, bringing themselves into the toe now. That long, long corner. Multiple lines being taken out of the corner there. Watching Pies just trying to close it in. I'm very impressed. He has kept that gap at around 3.5 tenths of a second. As we jump back here, this is Daniel Rubel.
When we had a big incident between Robert Lacroix and Rodney Campbell coming down to the chute. I'm not sure if we want to show it or not, but the two tangled after Campbell had an incident and bounced off the barriers, and that really took Lacroix out in a hurry. Meanwhile, back with Brody, and he is kind of on his lonesome compared to Pies and Walsh. He's got about 1.7 seconds to make up, with Banjo Paje in the 770, about 1.8 seconds back. Kind of in no man's land here in fourth position, Rachel.
Yeah, it really is. And fourth position around Brody is just not great for him at the moment. It's kind of isolating, but hopefully with the pit cycle, we'll see that change. There's always a possibility of that, so just one to keep your eyes on it as this flows. But if the front three start fighting a bit more, he could get right up to them.
Naturally, Lacroix has come into pit lane. Looks like Glen Dennis is going to join him as we check out the fight between Eisenring and Peterson. Eisenring on board. We're going to see him try and dive to the inside, but Peterson breaks a little bit deeper. He'll retain that sixth position behind him, while Eddie and Daniel Rubel fighting as, wow, great exit cutting back across, but Rubel is going to be on the outside here as he starts the wiper. I'm not sure how he managed that, and then switches back across to the other side once again. Rubel continually on the wrong side of things, DJ.
Yeah, he certainly is, but he's not giving up the fight whatsoever. Good run there, but I think that's going to force him to give up the ghost. Oh, no, he's not done yet.
Gets a great run. He's got a slipstream, but it's not that long of a straightaway here into the heel of the boot. It's hard braking, though, and no, nothing doing for the 30, while Eddie retains that 8th position, at least for now. But we're 10 minutes into this race, so a quarter of the way in. There's plenty of opportunities for Rubel to continue to hound him and hope to elicit a mistake.
A mistake is often the best way to pass it, Watkins Glen. We know what pressure can do to a driver and how you can easily mess up the line here. And one messed up line could throw a sequence of corners off. So it's every opportunity these guys can really put in.
Glen Dennis, unfortunately, given a black flag for an incident. So I'm not sure what he was involved in, if we managed to catch that earlier. But looks like this is going to send him even farther backwards. Here is Jacob Schum sitting in 14th position. Another one of those bright purple and green cars that's hard to miss. And he's also really got no one to have fun with right now, as everybody's all far apart from him. But Grant Talkie is being overtaken by Nicky Chan. I thought Nicky Chan's speed was going to be hampered by that slap into the wall, DJ, but looks like he survived it.
Yeah, clearly not. Nicky able to fight back, but here comes Taki back down to the inside of Nicky Chan. Chan trying to give him a little bit of a pinch as they go down through the chute. They're going to be side by side as they come out. It's going to be a drag race into the toe as Chan has to give up the ghost a little bit, and Grant Taki able to get back in front.
Well, he had it for about a corner and a half there, so Chan's got to re-rack and try again. We still have, it looks like, about 28 of our cars out here racing. I haven't lost too many of our 31 starters on board with Nelson in the 10th position. Not too far ahead of that battle we were just watching. In fact, Grant Talkie going to make a move on the 003. He might lose another one as we switch up briefly. Now we're seeing that battle as Nicky Chan almost had a shot to try and overtake Joe. Looks like he'll hold on to it for now, but Rachel, things getting a little bit tightly packed here in that group, and looking at the front once again now.
Yeah, they really are. I think I expected a bit more from Leif Peterson. He's down from 4th to 6th right now, which is, well, I don't know, worse. I've seen him before recently. Maybe this new season is going to be doing something different for him, but Brody's pushing forwards. This is good. Eisenring is up as well. This is important for him. And I think we're seeing a much broader field here in the pro than we've seen in previous seasons. So this race alone is already showing us it's really nowhere near over, as we've got a fight for the front here as Pies and Amram side by side of the carousel.
Somehow he caught up to him when we weren't watching. That was for the lead. This is still for the lead, really. That's Pies on the attack on Raphael. Cuts back as he tries to see if he can get the launch. Coming down the laces of the boot. He's going to look to the inside, coming down to the toe. He's given space as Amarim goes wide around the long right-hander, and that is Chris Pies into the lead.
A great move there for Googly Eyes, Chris Pies, but Amarim looking to fight back a little bit, and don't look now, but that's Chris Walsh trying to get it there. That's going to be Amarim fighting around the outside, and I think he's going to lose that position out to Walsh.
Three-way battle for the lead, but Amarim has been demoted 2 positions in a single lap. Can he fight back is the question from here. Before we saw the lead car in the club class lose a little bit of time, but managed to at least retain it. Amarim's actually going to have to battle as they come around. They are within the pit window. Raphael Pitt, nope, he's not going to succumb to the temptation. He's going to stay out, Rachel, and he's going to hold on to the slipstream.
Yeah, he is for now, and it's going to keep him in a good spot here on board with the Pacific Northwest's and Eisenring coming into 1. Big braking there right behind Peterson. Through the corner they'll come, and just keeping that car on track. Running a little wider there, carrying a bit more speed. This might set him up for a pass here.
Let's watch and see as Eisenring is about 1/4 of a second behind from Peterson. We saw 3/10 back get you close. 2/10 probably going to at least be side by side, but Peterson will cover off the inside line. Ed having to go the long way around of the outer loop, breaks a little bit early and gets back in line.
Yeah, just doesn't want to risk it. There's still 25 minutes to go in this race. You don't want to go into full commit, full attack mode here quite yet. I think being a little bit discretionary is the better part of valor here early on in this race, Joe.
Riding on board with Chris Walsh, but behind him, you couldn't see it. Amarim had 2 wheels in the dirt coming off of the chute, so he's pushing hard to hold on. Seems like the early pace that we got out of the 26 car has started to evaporate. And it's not that he's dropped back, though, mind you. It's not like he's slow here, but I don't know. I'm a bit surprised, Rachel, that he was caught and then passed as easily as he was.
Yeah, absolutely, and that'll happen sometimes. You just get a great run, and it can put you in that position to do exactly that. And right now, wow, Amarim's just dropped here so quickly. We'll have to see what happens with the pit cycle, but this has changed our whole top 3 dynamic.
Absolutely. And Chris Pies up to almost half a second ahead. He's putting some visual distance between himself and Walsh every so often. Let's see if the slipstream cuts into that any. And they're going to come up to a little bit of lap traffic. They've got Mazzariello just in front of them in the 25. It's the first of the lapped cars because our 31st driver, J.R. Gregory, is out of this race. And weaving down to the inside, Pies trying to break the slipstream. Stays down to the inside. Chris Walsh tries to open up the corner, and that regains the time.
It does indeed. We focus back here. Grant Talkie as he's side by side with Lyle Eddy going down into the outer loop. Who's going to have that one? Both cars almost perfect as they come out of the corner. It's going to come back and favor Grant Talkie here as they go down into the chute.
Green versus green, and Talkie right now has the edge coming down to the bottom of the track. Braking hard for the toe of the boot. Despite him being close, Lyle Eddy cannot get the overlap. Coming off the turn, he starts to fade a little bit. The 79 not nearly as tight to the rear bumper of Talkie as he was before. 22 minutes to go. We're starting to hit that halfway point, Rachel. Who will dare try and split this one perfectly in half?
It's going to be tough. I think splitting in half might be a call, but we saw it be a little different last time out. So I think we're expecting more of the same. We know these guys watch the other rounds, so it's going to be a lot of information to be picked up and will really dictate how the strategy goes. I think the later call is the better one.
Yeah, I would agree, especially with how close the pack still is. Not many have spread out enough. They're going to get caught up in traffic, no doubt. Raphael Amarim has been hanging on to the back of the 104. Looks like he's regained some of that pace. It's now down to 0.3 of a second up to Chris Walsh. But again, Walsh is going to get a nice little tow here, and they have finally caught up to Mazzariello, who sees them, and he lifts this time. With them being much closer, he's getting blue flags and being very kind to let them through despite the tow. Chris Walsh only gets within about 1/10 of a second by the time they come to the end of the backstretch. And now it switches back through the technical boot section. Is this where we see Chris Walsh start to drop off, DJ?
It may be indeed, but all of them separated only by about 7.5 of a second. Ooh, Walsh so late on the brakes there, going down into the toe of the boot. Very, very good there. He's able to keep that gap under 0.3 of a second here. 2.5 as they fly down this little mini straight into the heel.
Under braking, once again, gains a little bit. Getting close to those brake lights. Amram giving watch. They've got quite a gap back to Brody. It's about 3.2 seconds down to the number 20 car in fourth place. So as somebody looks like they had a major off there. I didn't see who it was, but they left some tire tracks and some smoke to give us some hints as to what happened, Rachel.
Yeah, I think that's going to have to be what we see there to tell us about that one. But these guys have been hitting this thing pretty hard. I think it was a solo car moment there for them, but really is putting this track in a position where it's actually fighting them more than they're fighting it. And we've seen it bite more people than we've actually had on-track incidents between drivers, so.
It's like Grant Talkie is serving his penalty. He was given a black flag. So he's down on the lane. Here we go once again. This is much closer for Walsh. In fact, close enough, this might actually be the pass. Pies tries to defend as they pick up speed. He's not completely by him. 165 this time before they finally get on the binders. And looking for the over-under, nothing becomes of it. Amram, though, is able to close up because of the side-by-side racing.
Yeah, he certainly is there, Joe, and I just think that Chris Pies is a little bit more aggressive on the brakes coming down into the outer loop. That's really why he is able to hold that advantage out, and Chris Walsh has got to start looking at other areas to try to make an overtake. I think maybe going down into the heel may be a good area. He's just got to try to find something else here.
And Chris is the only one of these top four that have gained positions. Everybody's either lost or stayed the same. Next driver down to have gained positions. This is 770 in fifth spot. And Chris Pies is wide, goes Walsh, and there goes Amram. Just one little mistake, Rachel. The door was opened, and Amram pounced.
Yeah, he did. And you can't basically do that in front of a guy like Amram and expect him not to take advantage. He did, and, well, he's going to hold that for a bit as we get people pitting now.
But Amram stays out. Okay, then. Interesting. Splitting it just past halfway for the top two. Again, not what we were expecting there. I guess they just didn't like all the battling that we saw happening. Now, this is Banjapaje there in the 770. Still trying to shake Peterson and Eisenring, now promoted up into the top three spots because of those pit stops, but they'll have to give them back once they serve their stops for fuel onto the backstretch. Who's got enough slipstream?
Who's got it indeed? Banjapaje able to get a little bit off of Mazzariello up there ahead of him. Big dive coming up from behind there from Ed Eisenring. I thought he wasn't going to stop that car at all, but he did indeed, as I think that little bit of a late break has allowed Daniel Rubel to catch up a little bit on him, and there Mazzariello getting out of the way of these drivers, it looks like.
Important update for Pies and Walsh after their pit stops. They are out in completely clear air, so those two can push as hard as they please. It looks like either they had someone talking to them about a gap in the traffic, or they had a little bit of eyes on the track map and their own timing and scoring. Meanwhile, we continue to watch Peterson, see if he can shake something out of the 770. And coming off of turn 9, I think Banjapaje is going to be well clear. Now, will either of them elect to pit in? Will Amram come in? No, Amram's going to stay out. But Brody is in. Banjapaje stays out. Peterson stays out. and so does Eisenring. So only one more taker so far in the top drivers, Rachel.
Yeah, one more for now. I think we'll see a couple of guys trying to bet on clean air to make a difference. It has been a big thing, and it will affect you at a track like this, but the draft is so important. I'd rather be around somebody else.
So Brody was well behind Pies and Walsh, so we don't expect him to wind up near them after this. But this is Walsh's view. Now, here's what's interesting. Look at the gap there, DJ. I'm seeing half a second difference in the pit stall between them, and I think that's about close to what they have apart from one another. Looks like there's a slight difference in the full lane time as well.
Yeah, it does indeed look like there is, and so that has allowed for Chris Pies to pull that gap out just a little bit more over Walsh, and that could be all the breathing room he needs. It could be a situation where Walsh has now just got to over-push the car to try to really keep up within that draft range. He's down with that about 9/8 of a second as they get down into braking, though, and that's going to Constantina up a little bit, obviously, but it looked like he had a better run through that corner.
Watching from Eisenring in the 929, currently sitting fourth. They need to come in and pit pretty soon. 15 minutes left to go. We believe this is pretty much the end of the pit window. And I'm watching ahead of them on my screen to see if Amarim does indeed come in. Yes, Amarim is heading in. So this must be the end of the gas tank for pretty much everybody. Yep, 770 is in. Peterson, whoa, much braver on the brakes, gains a ton of time, almost runs into the back of Banjo Paje.
Yeah, really went for that one there. Quite surprising, actually. Huge puff of smoke you saw there on the screen. So you can gain a ton of time pitting in right as long as you make sure you are not gambling with that pit line, because that will cost you a lot more.
And Chris Pies just past pit entry. Where's Amarim? Amarim up to 11 seconds. He's starting to roll. This is going to be very, very close. I think Amarim's going to have the track position, though. He is. Amarim is out. Oh, but I think he touched the line. I'm not sure if that's going to give him a penalty. He was pushing like the Dickens there, DJ.
Yes, he was. He knew exactly what was at stake. Let's hope he doesn't pick up that penalty there for Rafael Amarim. Let's check out the replay here on pit exit for Rafael.
Definite
he's good.
two wheels
Not
over.
half the car, though.
Okay. So let's, yeah, it should be. No, I'm seeing a black flag. In iRacing, he has got a black flag. So I'm assuming that is for going over the pit exit line, a critical error in what could have been a race victory with him getting back the lead through strategy.
Oh my goodness, Joe. You hate to see a race coming down to that.
Just gutted. But Pies has got to thank his lucky stars. The 14 will now inherit that spot right back. I have no idea if he knows. Not sure that it's likely unless he was very eagle-eyed coming out of the first corner and really watching what was going on. But he's going to certainly have a big grin on his face, Rachel, as soon as he sees Amarim have to duck away.
Ooh, yeah, I think he must be confused as to how he managed to hold that. That was an insane strategy by Amarim. I've got to give him that, but yeah, this is going to be rather exciting, I think, for Pies and Walsh when they see what happens here. But heartbreak is real.
So, yeah, there he goes down in, and Amarim confirmed it over the radio for unsafe pit exit. You got to stay beneath those lines and not cross them until you go past the blue cone, which he did not. So this means it's now down to Pies and Walsh. They are well ahead of Travis Brody, who is actually now struggling just to retain the podium there in that third place. He inherits it. But, boy, this is going to be exciting because look at this, DJ. It looks like Peterson's got a run.
Indeed, he's going to try to make it in here, and he's going to be on the preferred line, going down into the corner, trying to carry a little bit more speed around the outside, but I think Peterson's got this done and dusted.
Nice fight back from Peterson. Started this race in fourth, is now up into third, but just barely. Brody's going to try and come back at him. He's on the wrong side of the track. It's down into the braking for the toe of the boots, and he starts to slip backwards. But look at that. He almost had the hole plugged up by the 770. Eisenring as well could maybe try and do something with it. But Brodeo has got himself a chance to try and fight for it once again. But it's also on the outside of the heel of the boot as well. He does better this time, and that'll give him the inside into turn 9.
Oh, this will be huge for Brody, but the inside is critical there, I think, but you can carry a bit more speed on the outside with another left-hander. Oh, bit of contact. Left-hander coming up here. It will be advantage to him. As in fact, is he clearing him? Yeah, he's not. No.
Ooh, side by side through the final corner. Peterson retains the spot. A nice fight back from Brody. Doesn't work. Bangiapage now comes up the inside. Hasenosen down into the 90. It's not a question of who gets in there better, it's who gets out better. And it looks like just parking at the apex. The 770 will outgun him, and so will Eisenring. Down 3 spots for Brody.
My goodness, that couldn't have been a worse combination of corners there for Travis Brody, but he is still going to be close enough to try to counterattack here as they work their way up through the S's. He's going to tuck himself up behind in the draft and see what he can do.
Wow, this got interesting here at the end, and Brody has just been swamped by fast drivers. I can't blame him too much. Yes, it's disappointing to see a driver lose 3 spots like that, Rachel, but the talent level here at the sharp end of the field is on another level.
It absolutely is. Yeah, these guys are so fast that you just got to say, not my day today. They are so quick.
Coming out of the toe of the boots. I think Peterson might be in clear air enough. As long as he doesn't give the toe to the 770, he should be able to stay ahead. But Bangiapage still has Eisenring breathing down his neck. We're still about 0.6 of a second apart between Pies and Walsh, so that's not close enough yet. But if that does get closer, we'll want to check in on that. The SRO driver has been making sure that Chris has had to stay honest.
Yeah, he really and truly has, just making sure that that gap is not growing too big. And I've been keeping an eye on it as well, Joe, but I can't take my eyes off this battle on our screen between Peterson, Bangiapage, and Eisenring. It is just absolutely electric.
Coming down into the 90 this time. Well, we see the 770 get another good run. It looks decent, but Peterson has pulled himself out of reach now. Slipstream not as effective from this distance of almost half a second. Instead, it's Eisenring who's got the launch. He's got the slipstream down the backstretch, immediately covering the inside. Ed's going to have to once again go the long way around Rachel. And as they look for the brake marker all the way to the inside for those two, my goodness, that'll compromise them. I think that Eisenring might have this.
He might just about have something, yes. It could be exactly what he wants to see, as this is one hell of a battle here for the 4th, 5th, and 6th spots on the track. Really going for this thing. It is super close, and oh gosh, I want to see how this culminates. More than I think our lead battle, which has broken up a bit. I think we need to be within 3/10 to really make a draft pass.
That is down to 0.5 of a second, so it's not impossible that those two could still come back together. But for now, not worth paying attention to when we've got this kind of fun erupting for the final step of the podium. They're not fully out of range of Peterson. He's just about 0.6 of a second ahead. Eisenring picking him off. I almost wonder, DJ, if Eisenring was playing possum early on, if he was kind of waiting a bit in the first stage of this race, and now he's really unleashing what this car has.
Well, he could have been just holding back a little bit on those tires, Joe. He could have just been trying to conserve his stuff to really make a full-on attack here at the end.
So here's Amarin back out on the track. Did I hear correctly that he had to come back in a second time? Yeah, I'm seeing potentially a second time that he's had to be in for black flag. Still on the lead lap. That tells you how much it's worth around here to be up at the front. How long the lap is as well. Back to the battle for 4th now. And Eisenring, yes, Eisenring is starting to get closer. He's cut away at Peterson's lead, Rachel.
Yeah, he's made a big dent in that as Eisering really going for this one. Peterson has to be concerned here. This could be an opportunity.
Another shallow line for the 913. So the 929 is a little bit quicker as we ride on the nose of Banjo Paje and breaking into the left-hander, the chute. Doesn't gain as much that time. Still 1, 2, 3 in a line. That's third, fourth, and fifth on your screen.
Indeed it is, and Eisenring just continuing to close down. He's got that gap under that crucial 0.3 of a second that Rachel talked about to really be effective. Starts to Constantina out a little bit here as they get up to speed, but he is definitely within striking range.
As they come off of the heel, Eisenring, he was close before. Now he drops back a little bit in this part of the track. This gives the 770 a whiff of a chance as he once again could promote himself up another position or two. Each edge and the 770 have climbed 4 from the start. So is Chris Byes, our leader, by the way. And yeah, man, bad last half of the lap for Eisenring, Rachel. And I think Banjo Paje's got a very good shot at 4th.
Oh, huge shot at 4th. I think he really has the opportunity here, but he's got to be careful. There's still a lot he can mess up.
I think he tried to back up the entry to the 90 and maybe did so a little too much. Does get a good exit. He was way far behind coming up the corner. And it looks like that is not going to get him the spot this time. So we finally get a bit of a calm run down into the outer loop this time, although they continue to try and weave to break that slipstream a little bit. We've also got another black flag for Julian Velez this time. So a number of drivers have found themselves to be a bit naughty as that was way wide from Walsh coming out of the chute, and he lost a ton of time with that mistake, DJ.
Yeah, he really did just kind of miscategorize it there. I think he got onto the throttle a little bit too early, and that created some understeer there for him. Just ran the car out wide, and he sort of had to catch the car to make sure it didn't go spinning off into this distinctive blue Armco here around Watkins Glen.
So here we go. We've got 3 laps left at the line. Back to Jacob Schum. Haven't given him a lot of love. This is a battle between Stifle, Eddie, Schum, and oh no, all 3 of them are taken out. Give 3 spots to Ed Nelson in the blink of an eye. What in the world just happened there, Rachel?
We need to see a replay of this. That was humongous for us. As they're coming down here, you'll see them all lined up now. And this is in towards the heel of the boot here. Oh, big dive! Oh, no!
Did he just outbrake himself? Or?
Yeah, no, I think Schum, I think he tried to go for a move there, and it was either he outbraked himself or went for the most bonehead move in history. I can't tell. So either a mistake or crazy.
The race control agrees with you. They just black flagged him very, very quickly. So he's unfortunately just gone by the pit entry. He's not going to be able to serve it that time by. And he's got to do it, I think, next time by because he's going to run out of laps to serve it. You can't do it on the final lap or else you'll get penalized. And we watch with Brody here, who is still battling with Banjo Paje. And I think has actually retaken over the 770. Yeah, that is for 5th place. So at some point we missed a pass here. Excuse me, go ahead.
It was right after the 90. We actually did see that pass, Joe. So Brody able to hold it out here, but it looks like Banjo Paje is going to be trying to keep up the pressure here as much as possible. Only 0.4 of a second gap in between them as we come to the line for 2 laps to go.
This is Eisenring back on the back of Peterson. 913 does not want to give up this podium position. They come around back onto the main circuit, both of them nice and smooth. Boy, it's despite you can see from on board here, not many clouds, it seems like, around, but we've had a lot of cloud cover today, Rachel.
Yeah, I think it's just been catching the particular ones. Watkins Glen tends to do that, so, and you'll notice this track is one of the most affected by the sky condition. It can really change dynamically very fast.
Coming down into the 90, a much better exit for the 913. So he's going to be safe coming up the hill. Schum finally serves his penalty and is down and in. So that changes those positions around him. This is our leader, Chris Pies, 1.7 seconds. That one little mistake, DJ, I think was incredibly decisive. It's continued to grow bit by bit. I think being out of the slipstream has meant Walsh is not as fast as we thought.
Yeah, you read my mind there, Joe. It just looked like that Walsh not able to really keep up that pace now that he's out of the slipstream. He just needed that little bit of an extra toe on the straightaway to be able to keep things nice and close, but now that he's out of it, it's just slipping away from him.
Back to Eisenring on Leif Peterson. Texas driver has been soaking up the pressure. He's had to be on the attack, switching now to the defense to see if he can hold off all 4 cars that he had to battle with throughout the race, and it's been whittled down to the last one, able to retain position with him. And Ed Eisenring, a pat on the back for him as well, for being able to stay as close as he has, along with gaining 4 positions. Meanwhile, there's the black, not the black flag, the white flag opposite there, Joe, for Chris Pies, 1 to go.
Yeah, I think that is actually, and I'm not him, but I'm me, as that is the one to go now. We have for the final run here. Googly Eyes has his eyes on the prize.
The eyes on the pies, you could say, as Chris comes up through the S's. And 1.7 seconds to Chris Walsh is still comfortable. Can't make any major mistakes, though. A little slide in a corner, a spin will easily hand it over to Chris Walsh. Coming down into the outer loop. That one's nice and smooth. And the clock will run down to 0. Eisenring managed to get side by side this time into the outer loop, but still can't make the pass stick. In fact, unfortunately, it looked like that one cost him a little bit as he falls a couple car lengths behind.
Yeah, indeed. He just didn't quite have the oomph to get it around the outside, and I think the tires screaming out for grip here at this stage. You can't really make that move on tires that are complaining on that level. But Chris Pies here continuing to go on, just a couple of more corners to go.
So Chris Pies with a best lap of a 43.7 out here. Incredibly quick today. In fact, I need to check and try and see if I can find what Amaram ran, 43.791. So yeah, it looks like fastest lap is going to go to Chris Pies here, unless somebody snatches it at the very last moment in this morning race for the Pro Class. Christopher Pies comes out of the final turn and to the line and takes the opening win of Series 8 here for the PCA Pro Class. Chris Walsh in second. Leif Peterson survives Eisenring's attacks to take third. Here's Dewey Kang in the 32. This is for the 14th position. Bayless, who we've seen had to serve a black flag at one point. Albano in front of them. And very close, but Albano will keep 12th. Bayless 13th. Kang 14th. Not seeing anybody else that is looking close for a victory. In fact, 28 of the 31 starters look like they're going to finish on the lead lap. Wow.
But I say that's a fast field. We had a lot of finish in the previous race, but it is a long lap, of course, as we mentioned. 1 minute 44 is surprisingly long, but there you go.
Jacob Schum fighting to the line, but he's not going to be able to overtake Geralp, so the 734 is going to stay ahead, and that is pretty much it for our fights. Mazzariello going to be the last one to come home on the lead lap. Nice job, considering I do remember him starting to be lapped at one point. And these are your results for the day. Chris Pies taking the victory from 5th on the grid. Chris Walsh finishing exactly where he started in second. Just couldn't keep up with Chris. It'll be Leif Peterson finishing P3, and then Ed Eisenring very close to a podium, less than half a second there between them. He finished 4th. Travis Brody was 5th, and Daniel Rubel, I wouldn't say a quiet 6th, as we did see some fights for him early on, but we didn't see much of him in the latter half of the race. Banjapaje finished in 7th with Reinsberg in the 8th position. Ed Nelson was 9th, and Joe Steifel rounds out your top 10.
In 11th, it was Nikki Chan, followed by Gabrielle Albano with Tristan Bayless and Dewey Kang behind them. Mario Gonzalez was 15th, and he was followed home by Robert LaCroix and Rafael Amarim down, courtesy of those pit stop woes. Charles Yao was in 18th, followed by Stephen Chen, and Oregon Girl rounds out your top 20.
21st is going to be Jacob Schum with Lyle Eddy in 22nd, Glenn Dennis in 23rd, with Joe Sinclair 24th, Rodney Campbell 25th, Trey Drawhorn in 26th, Grant Torkey 27th, Jeremy Masriello 28th with Robert Cottle in 29th, 30th Julian Velez, and 31st is going to be Joe Gregory, unfortunately for him, and Christian Rava in 32nd.
I believe we're going to have a chat pretty soon with our podium as we wait for them to come and join us. But DJ, that was fascinating to see the difference between the first two on Wednesday evening, and then now here on Friday night with the pro and the club class, because that was some stunning racing that we saw out there.
Yeah, it really and truly was just absolutely incredible stuff out there today. Good, clean, fair, close racing from both classes tonight. It's exactly what you want to come to see when you come to a PCA event like this. Just absolutely incredible.
And Chris Pies topped them all in the race trim, but not in qualifying trim. Chris, congratulations. Let's start before the race, though. Qualified 5th. Does you not consider this place a strong suit for you for qualifying? It seems like a pretty stark difference. Half a second off the pole sitter, but in charge to the lead.
Yeah, no, I've always struggled a little with qualifying. It's probably my weakest spot. And then for some reason, I'm not necessarily the quickest at Watkins Glen. I know a lot of the other folks that are on the podium typically have more pace than me, but I got a heck of a start and I was able to just kind of parlay that into a win.
Now, Rafael Amarim was leading for part of it. You guys managed to pass him in the first half before the stops, but then the stops happened and he emerged in front of you. Now, he had a penalty that he had to serve because of going over that pit exit blend line. If that hadn't have happened, would have this been an easy fight to repass him, or did he seem genuinely fast?
Rafael is always kind of the one to beat right now in our league, and he's quick. One of the things I was trying to do was to see if I could push him in the beginning and maybe set the pace, maybe force him to play outside of his strategic plan for the race. So I wanted to get up front and kind of dictate that. Fortunately for me, unfortunately for him, I made a little mistake in the pit lane. But yeah, it was definitely going to be a fight coming down to the wire. I had conserved a lot of tires. I felt like I could take the fight to him at the end of the race.
Wish we could have seen it. Next week, though, we're going to be heading off to Sebring. A bit of a stark contrast from a freshly repaved Watkins Glen. How do you feel about it?
I love Sebring. It's one of my favorite tracks. Both love it in sim and in real life. Got a lot of confidence going to there, and hopefully you can do pretty well.
All right. Congratulations. Anybody you want to thank that helped make this victory possible?
It's Doug Atkinson. Thanks for running this league, buddy. You do a great job trying to herd all of us cats on a regular basis. And then you guys at Podium, thank you for the phenomenal broadcast that you put on. Appreciate it.
Christopher Pies in first today in the end after starting from 5th. From second to second for Chris Walsh. Looks like DJ is going to be talking to him.
I have indeed, Chris. It looked like you were just involved in the scrum of everything out there today. Second place has got to feel pretty good. Qualified there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was happy with, where my practice times were. I was like in P10, so I was just hoping to qualify at least in the top 5 to hang in there and fight for it. And my biggest thing was just hang on with those guys, take care of the tire, which I made a few mistakes at the end, which let Chris get all the way away from me. But yeah, you got to really manage the tires and avoid lockups. It's really, really damaging when you lock the tires up on this car.
Well, that was actually my question for you, is what happened there at the end. So it was just a matter of the tires being a little bit overcooked there, and you just locked them up?
Yeah, I just was pushing that little bit extra. I wanted that extra 1 or 2% brake pressure into a couple turns, and kept locking the front left, and you just lose all grip for at least a corner or two. And that gave enough of a gap to Chris. I couldn't get it back. It was taking me everything I had to get a 10th back every lap. So.
Well, all right. I heard through the grapevine that you may be doing some real life racing this year. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I race in a few series, but right now working mainly in WRL, which is an amateur endurance series. Actually, Chris Pies races in that series as well, and we race in separate cars. And working on getting back into the SRO grid and maybe an IMSA seat or at least one round of IMSA this year. We'll see. I'm wheeling and dealing. I haven't figured it out yet, but we're getting closer. So.
Well, fingers crossed, my friends, that you can get back into an SRO seat in particular. But anybody you want to thank for the run here today?
Yeah, I mean, always, my wife, she helps me out with the kids in the evenings. So it's always great to give me the opportunity to come down here and race. And, you guys are putting on a great broadcast, and the PCA steering committee and staff, sim racing staff that does a great job to make this possible and make it always enjoyable.
Well, thank you so much, Chris, and congratulations once again on a second place.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
Well, that was Chris Walsh, your second place finisher here today. Joe?
That'll take us to Leif Peterson. Rachel's caught up with the guy that certainly had to play some defense to be able to stand on this podium.
Well, we expect a lot always from Leif Peterson. Mr. Consistency himself. Brought it home today in third place. One up from where you started in fourth, Leif. But you definitely had to fend off the masses and the Orc hordes coming in towards the very end of that.
Yeah, the whole race. It was wonderful. I love seeing guys that have come up and gotten fast, and new guys like Travis, and we just had great fun. It worked out for me. I got lucky that I was able to catch a little off in the outer loop at the beginning of the race and got back in line and saved fuel, jumped everybody in the pits, caught up with Travis, and we had a good battle. Got a little hairy for a minute, but we made it through. So I wanted to commend those guys for keeping it clean and really enjoyable race.
Absolutely, of course. And was it kind of terrifying right at the end there in the heel of the boot crash that your group involved in?
I didn't see that. Sorry.
No, I think you were lucky it's right behind you. But how do you go to Sebring next week? Is this a track that really sings to you?
Last pro race was a good practice, and I learned my lesson by having 2 self spins in each of the races. So I'm still trying to get a handle on this car. I really like Sebring and hope to do better next time.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to seeing what you can do. Thanks for joining us. Leif Peterson coming home today in third.
Thank you, guys.
And that's going to wrap up our interviews here today for the PCA Sim Racing Series 8. We've wrapped up the first week as well, which means we'll see you next time here at Sebring at 9 p.m. Eastern on Friday, March 30th for the Pro and Club classes. But before that, Wednesday at the same time on the 28th, we'll also be back then. And that is all live here on Podium Esports. A big thank you goes to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing. And also, we want to give a huge thanks to our team tonight, Rachel, DJ, Ryan, Cameron, and Dougie. Also, none of this would be possible without those behind the scenes at Podium Esports, Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track.